what's up?
We broke up in 2016. He went on to live a life as a single man. I went on to live a life as a single woman. And then when we had the talk at the red table, I was going to go to the red table by myself to talk about the entanglement. But Will decided he wanted to come with me. And we were going to then tell the world, hey, we haven't been together. And this happened during that time. Well, when we got to the table, Will wasn't ready. He wasn't ready. He wasn't ready for the world to know that. I had to respect that. Well, I didn't have to, but I wanted to. But I was ready. I was ready to let go of the persona I had created around myself that had put me in a golden cage. I wanted to let that go. And so I had to stay on my journey. I had to stay on my path while also respecting that Will wasn't ready. So I said, you know what? This is my mess anyway. I'm going to take this heat because guess what? The heat is coming either way. Whether when we decide to get divorced, when we decide to separate, whatever. This is my practice run. Strip it down.
I never understood the hate that Jada got. I slightly understood the annoyance people had for Jada, but the hate never truly made sense to me. Watching the infamous Red Table Talk entanglement, if you actually listen with open ears, it's clear that both Jada and Will were guilty of stepping outside of their marriage in different ways. But because the public has the preconceived notion of black excellence and the untouchable power couple image of Will and Jada, many people overlooked Will's flaws while zooming in on Jada's. The truth is, Will has never been the impeccable husband that people imagined him to be. He's human like anyone else with his own mistakes and shortcomings. Yet the narrative always paints Jada as the villain, largely because of how she communicates. She speaks about sensitive issues calmly, even with a laugh or a lightness that can come off as dismissive. To an audience, we believe that Jada should be grateful to be in the position that she's in, because she has everything that the modern woman dreams of. Now, I use modern woman lightly because that might be a sensitive word now, but you understand what I mean. Her composure is interpreted as arrogance or ungratefulness. Women like Jada, who dare speak openly about their pain or dissatisfaction, are treated as though they're betraying the fantasy we want to believe in. Jada challenged the carefully curated, perfect marriage image, and instead of being heard for her honesty, she was scapegoated. That doesn't mean the situation she was in was right, but the domino effect was way more than any of them intended to face. The quote-unquote fall of the Smith family really was because of Jada's Red Table Talk. Red Table Talk was her own platform to share her own personal life wisdom and connect with her audience. Unfortunately, she took this position head on and began oversharing just a bit too much. There was positive moments where she shared her personal experience with not having a father and her mother being a recovering drug addict and how that shaped her view of life. Her story was touching. She was touching our heartstrings, and she was able to overcome all of that and become this huge figure in Black Hollywood. Will is a part of that story. For the audience, we thought this was a great story, a match made in heaven story. But what Jada actually did was break their PR bubble and made the audience realize that is far from the truth. What made the Smith family great was that they were the pinnacle of black excellence in Hollywood. Jada being a part of so many renowned black TV shows and movies, she had built credibility in black culture through her roles in A Different World, Set It Off, and Menace to Society, while also being admired for her beauty and confidence. And Will is like the Tom Cruise of black Hollywood. Every movie he made was leveling him up into a global box office phenomenon. Hit movies like Independence Day, Bad Boys were proof that Will could lead that kind of blockbuster franchise as an A-list actor without being typecast. When they got married, it made sense. Not just because of love, but because they looked good together and it would help both of their careers. Their union became the image of black love, of relationship goals with a picture-perfect family to match.
I want a real love, dark-skinned and Aunt Viv love, that Jada in that weird love.
But Jada didn't feel that way because Jada never wanted to get married. Jada never wanted the housewife life.
We only got married because Gammy was crying.
Well, Gammy, this is what happened. It was almost as if Gammy was like, you have to get married. So let's talk about the wedding. I was like, I never wanted to be married.
I don't remember that. I remember feeling very strongly and wanting you guys to be married. I do remember that.
Yes.
But I don't remember your rejection of the idea of marriage. I remember the rejection of the idea of a wedding.
I didn't want a
But
wedding
not
either.
She didn't
want it,
I was
yeah.
like, I don't want to get married. And now Gammy done gone to Will crying about, I don't want to have a wedding. And now I'm being forced to have a wedding. When really, I just wanted it to be the two of us on a mountain. Because I was like, this is serious business.
Yeah, wedding was horrible.
It was a horrible wedding.
It was a mess. Jada was sick. She was very unpleasant. Wouldn't cope. She was sick. She didn't cooperate with.
You were sick.
And I was so upset that I had to have a wedding. I
Yeah.
was so pissed.
We
went crying down the freaking aisle.
getting married.
Cried the whole way.
But for Will and Jada's mother, it made sense. It all made sense to everyone but Jada, because Jada was pregnant with Jaden. Will was not going to be walking around with no baby mama. He's just not that type, and it's not a good look for image purposes. I'm sure he still loved Jada, but he was also willing to give her time to understand that they will be getting married regardless of how she feels, because it would be beneficial to him. A family man is everything in Hollywood. Despite what your peers tell you, it brings you a certain level of respect. And at one point, according to Will's own words himself, Jada woke up crying for 45 days straight.
Internally, our family was winning, right? And there was a period where mommy woke up and cried 45 days straight. I started keeping a diary.
Damn.
We broke up. I was devastated, even worse than a divorce.
She woke up crying for 45 days, but Jada also clarified it wasn't because of Will exactly, but because she created a life where she just wasn't happy. He wrote it down in his journal, the days she was crying. From the outside looking in, Will Smith has always seemed like the model figure, a great guy, a devoted husband, and the type of man anyone would admire. But the truth is, we don't really know who he is behind closed doors. What we see is the carefully built persona he presents to the world. And I'm sure he really is a great guy. But what we see is the happy-go-lucky entertainer who's always smiling, who is full of laughs and likes to give you wisdom about your life and bettering yourself. That image feels real because he sells it so well. But at the end of the day, it's still an image. And it's still important to remember that we're responding to his presentation, not necessarily the full reality of who he is. Will once went on the Graham Norton show discussing the first time Jada was supposed to meet his family. He said that his grandmother Gigi was extremely religious and had no idea who Jada was at the time. So Will thought it would be funny to prank her. Before Jada arrived, he put on one of her movies and timed it so that by the time she walked in, his grandmother would be right in the middle of watching one of Jada's sex scenes. Now, if you ever watch Jason Lyric, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. But Gigi did not like that. So Gigi's watching the scene, looked right at Jada and said, "When I was growing up, people didn't have to take off their clothes to make a movie." So as you can guess, Jada did not like that, and Will laughs about it. He still kind of laughs about it, but you can only imagine how awkward that must have been for Jada on her very first introduction to meet his family. And then there's the 40th birthday party fiasco. When Jada turned 40, she wanted something simple. In her words, all she wanted was an intimate evening with Will and the kids. Nothing over the top, nothing extravagant, but Will had other plans. For nearly 3 years, he had been quietly plotting what he thought would be the ultimate celebration for his wife. A lavish, over-the-top 3-day birthday event that included family, friends, and even a documentary about Jada's ancestry and life. To Will, this was a grand gesture. He believed pulling off something this massive would prove to her and to everyone watching just how devoted of a husband he was. And from the outside looking in, it would make him appear to be the perfect husband, the man who went above and beyond to honor his wife. But for Jada, it landed completely differently. While everyone saw that Jada was happy, according to Will's own account, Jada told him that night, "That was the most disgusting display of your ego I've ever seen in my life."
Roots. Her 40th birthday was going to be my thing.
It was going to be a splash.
It was going to be a splash. Mary J.
Definitely was a
Blige.
splash.
Mary J. Blige performed. I debuted the film, all of that. It was going to be the thing that lifted her out of this midlife crisis, and it was going to be my deepest, most beautiful proclamation of love. And she's told me that the party was the most ridiculous display of my ego.
Woo.
Crushed, right? And to this day, I know I was crushed because it was true.
The party he threw turned into a huge argument. Willow apparently was so upset by the tension that she was crying at the hotel. Will admits in his memoir that the birthday fallout was a turning point. He realized that for years, he had been trying to orchestrate happiness, staging grand shows of love without actually listening to what Jada wanted. And Jada, who was dealing with depression, was going through a lot mentally. So was it love or ego? The truth might be both. Will's intentions may have been rooted in wanting to make Jada happy during one of the hardest mental battles of her life. But at the same time, he clearly ignored her needs. She said she didn't want it. So why continue to pursue that mission and give her something that she didn't ask for? But because the party was so grand and thoughtful, it's like, why are you not grateful for his actions? And that, according to what we know, was the boiling point between their marriage. From her point of view, it wasn't about what made her happy. It was about what made him look like the husband of the year. And his response was, "That's it. I retire. I retire from trying to make you happy." And their marriage fell apart from there. And Will left, and then they broke up, finito. And Will began his own life with other women in secrecy to maintain their public image. We all know about the long Hollywood rumor that they were in an open marriage. And as time would tell, that rumor turned out to be true. So once Red Table Talk came into fruition, Jada began oversharing pieces of her life and pieces of her marriage that was honestly none of our business. But having all these pieces of her life on the show was her downfall. When she had August on, detailing how he and Jada developed a close bond due to his addiction, that's what sparked the fire for audiences to get the full story about her and August's relationship. The issue really was August openly coming out and exposing their relationship due to his bag allegedly being stopped in the industry.
Okay, August is dating Jada Pinkett Smith, and that was something that was circulating as a rumor, and that kind of solidified it to people. So
I actually sat down with Will and had a conversation due to the transformation from their marriage to life partnership that they've spoken on several times, and it, not involving romanticism. He gave me his blessing. And I totally gave myself to that relationship for years of my life, and I truly and really, really deeply loved and have a ton of love for her. I devoted myself to it. I gave my full self to it. So much so to the point that I can die right now and be okay with knowing that I truly gave myself to somebody.
Right, you did the right thing.
And I really loved a person. I experienced that. I know what that feels like, and some people never get that in this lifetime.
People took the relationship as Jada taking advantage of August during a low point in his life. If you don't know, August had dealt with so much in his life, from being a Hurricane Katrina survivor to his brother's murder in 2010, his older brother Melvin was murdered in New Orleans, then his sister Chandra's death from cancer, August had to step up to help raise her 3 young daughters, becoming a guardian figure to them. Then his health issues with autoimmune liver disease, which attacks his immune system. This condition has led to him collapsing on stage and long breaks from music. That was a mouthful, but eventually it led to him becoming an addict. So Jada helped heal August, and he admits that. She became a crutch for him until things went sour. And I touched on this in my August Alsina longevity video. But because Will was still standing by Jada's side, people didn't like how it made him look. They felt like she was being disrespectful to their marriage, even though they both laughed and admitted that he too has done some dirt.
Y'all really think Jada was the only one having entanglements, Peep? What is said here?
I'm gonna get you back first, and then
You gonna get me back? I think you got me back. I think we're good on that.
okay, that's probably true.
But that went over people's heads because of this meme. Oh, this meme, this soul-crushing meme of Will. It crushed Will's fans and destroyed the image that they had of Will of being a strong figure. So that's why they ran with the narrative that Will was just some victim to the evil Jada Pinkett Smith. With Will sitting beside her, he ultimately continued to stand by her. For many men who pride themselves on traditional masculinity, this clashed with their entire worldview. In male online spaces, Will was branded as a simp, a man who let his wife humiliate him and stayed. Jada, who has been vocal about her unhappiness and depression, it's almost like, how dare you? How dare you? You have a desirable man, a multi-millionaire A-lister husband, and here you are complaining. They branded her as a narcissist who is trying to ruin a black man's legacy, when all actuality, she really didn't do anything. Now granted, every response that came after was retaliation to what happened when August exposed the affair. But it wasn't that egregious. The red table, again going back to the meme, looking at Will, he looked hurt, but the ending of that episode was a mutual understanding of their marital arrangement.
Together,
We die together.
Bad marriage for life.
So what are we mad about? Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like the outrage came from the perception that Jada was getting the best of both worlds. Both Will and Jada admitted to their own missteps. Everybody was hurt in this situation, but Jada was branded as the narcissistic manipulator, while Will was cast as her helpless victim. That narrative stuck, even though it wasn't fully supported by what they actually said. It all came full circle with the slap. The G.I. Jane joke that got Chris Rock slapped. Because Jada didn't look happy about the joke, it caused Will to retaliate. But if you peel back the layers, it's a bit more complicated than that. I honestly think we're just giving Jada just a little bit too much credit. It seems like an ego situation because the internet at the time, Black Twitter, was running rampant with the narrative about Will. I think it was more about the sensitivity to what was going on in their lives. I don't know if it was really entirely about protecting Jada per se, but more so protecting his image as a loving husband, his institution, because when Will was yelling, "Keep my wife's name out your mouth," Jada was confused because, according to her, they haven't called each other husband and wife for years.
Will then went on a profane tirade warning Chris not to mention his wife's name. Jada couldn't believe what she was hearing.
What is going on? Now, first of all, I'm really shocked because, mind you, I'm not there. We haven't called each other husband and wife in a long time. I'm like, what is going on right now?
My wife.
Ow, dude. Yes. It was a G.I. Jane joke.
Keep my wife's name out your f***ing mouth.
I'm going.
So she didn't understand what was happening. But again, Jada didn't look happy during the joke. The internet decided she must have used her mega mind powers and manipulated Will to walk on that stage and slap Chris Rock. Somehow, Her unhappy expression became proof that she manipulated Will into violence. When in reality, Will acted out of ego and frustration. But because of how Jada has been framed, the blame fell on her shoulders, and it became just another episode in the ongoing narrative of Jada tearing down her husband. Even when the evidence shows Will made that choice himself. Unraveling this situation doesn't absolve Jada of any wrongdoing, but it puts a broader perspective on what the issue actually is and why this narrative is so strong. Will and Jada's marriage was marketed as a symbol of black excellence, the perfect Hollywood power couple. When the cracks started to show, the disappointment hit harder than it would any other celebrity couple. And add in traditional gender norms and misogyny, and you got a whirlwind of BS.
We don't even call ourselves married anymore.
Yeah. You know, it's a life partnership in the sense that we've created a foundation together.
We have devoted ourselves to each other.
In a spiritual sense.
In a spiritual sense. To me, it gives us the freedom to create a different context, first of all, for ourselves, and not have to live up to the expectation of what people consider marriage to be.
There's nothing that could happen that we won't be together and love each other. And it's not because we just saying it. It's because we've cracked each other's heads wide open.
But you guys let me know what you think down below, and make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. Toodles.